Today we are going to be making some meals and treats with stuff we have around the farmhouse. We do not have any new groceries and we have not gone to the store, so let's make some things that we can enjoy without having to pick something up from the grocery store. So starting out, we are going to be making just a beef stew. I have never been a huge fan of a beef stew. It was never a favorite meal of mine growing up, but the way I did this one turned out super yummy. I did not do it in the crock pot. I feel like that is half the reason why it doesn't turn out quite as yummy as it could. I do it in my Dutch oven here. So I'm just chopping up some celery, some onions, some carrots, the usual. These carrots were looking a little bit sad. They needed to get used up before they made it into my freezer stock bag that I always keep on hand. So I have my beef browning in my Dutch oven, and then once it is cooked thoroughly, I will take it out, put in those veggies, and then start to brown caramelize them and get them nice and soft in the pan. I also end up adding some sherry wine to this as well. I think this is what made it taste super good. I put it in the pan to deglaze a little bit with the beef that I had in there, and just that added flavor took the beef stew to a whole new level. Once I have my core vegetables in my Dutch oven, I put a little bit of bone broth in there, and I also had in my fridge to use up some of this vegetable stock that I made a little while ago. So I'm going to add that too, just to get a nice creamy consistency, and also this helps cook the potatoes, a little stock, something for it to actually cook in. And then once I have my stock in there, I'm going to let it simmer, let it hang out until the potatoes are nice and soft. And this was so tasty. It was so good. The potatoes were soft and creamy, and the beef was tender and it fell apart. And the broth that we had it with was super good. You could have this over rice. You could have this over egg noodles. You could honestly even have it over mashed potatoes if you really wanted to make it spread a little bit further. So good and so tasty. Next up is a new one for me. I made spatchcock chicken. This is the first time I have ever had to really cut into a animal like this. I did not love doing that. That was not my favorite thing in the world to do, but I would do it again because this came out super good. So a spatchcock chicken is basically just taking the spine out of a whole chicken like this, so that way it lays flat on your pan. It gives you a more even cook and nice crispy skin all the way around. This was very good. We had some more potatoes to use up in the fridge. We had a bag of Brussels sprouts I had to use up. I ended up putting half of an onion, I ended up putting a whole onion underneath the entire chicken to give it something to sort of sit on and for all those yummy juices to get in the onion. It was super tasty. And then I just covered everything with some really good olive oil, salt, pink Himalayan salt, pepper, garlic powder, onion powder. I put paprika on the chicken. I did blot it to make it a little bit drier, so that way my skin gets nice and crispy, and let it all cook in the oven, get all brown and yummy all together. And this was so good. Like I said, I did not love having to pull apart the chicken like that. That was not my favorite thing to do, but I would make this again because it was a really easy one sheet meal dinner that I could put together in less than an hour and get it cooking, and we could have a really nice meal to enjoy together. This one's kind of random. I went on a trip with my husband a couple of months ago and we brought home some sugar pumpkins. These are pumpkins that you can use in pumpkin pie, basically your edible pumpkin squashes essentially is what they are. So I decided to use this two ways. I made some pumpkin muffins, which were so good, and I really underestimated how good the fresh pumpkin puree would be. It was so tasty. And then I also used the puree in a loaf of sourdough to make a pumpkin cinnamon sort of inclusion sourdough loaf. I have not made a sourdough inclusion yet on this channel. And I can't even remember the last time that I made a loaf of bread with inclusions. It has been a really, really long time. But once I had my pumpkin baked, I cut it up, took out the seeds, put some olive oil on it, baked until it was nice and soft. I pulled the skin off, put it in my food processor, and then blitzed it up with a little bit of water until it was smooth. And that is how I had my pumpkin puree. And then I just used it like you would any recipe that calls for pumpkin puree, and I used it in my muffins and my sourdough. These muffins, the recipe will be linked down below in the description box if you want to check it out. And I don't really have a very concrete recipe for the pumpkin loaf because I kind of just threw it together to the best of my knowledge. I probably could have gotten away with eliminating the water that I used in my sourdough loaf and just used the pumpkin instead. I kind of went like half and half. I probably could have just done the pumpkin and got away with that, and that would have worked out fine. My dough was a little bit stickier than I would have liked it to be, but it still turned out super delicious. The crumb topping that I ended up making for these pumpkin muffins was just flour, brown sugar, and the recipe called for butter, but I went ahead and just did some coconut oil because I didn't have any defrosted butter on hand, and that worked out really well too. I treated it the same way as I would a normal crumb topping for something, and it worked out. So this is your note to your future self. If you don't want to use butter, or if you're out and you have coconut oil, you can use coconut oil for your crumb topping. And this sourdough recipe that I'm following is just the Farmhouse on Boone sourdough boule. That is the one I go back to time and time again because there are no stretch and folds. You put everything together in the mixer, let it hang out overnight, let it rise, and then in the morning you punch it down, let it rise in the Banneton for a couple hours, and then you're good to go. It's just easier. I tend to find, even for myself, someone who has some experience with baking bread, it's just easier to not have to deal with the constant stretch and folds every 30 minutes or 15 minutes, however long it is. So I would highly recommend this recipe. And again, I used pumpkin and water. I probably could have gone without using water and just used pumpkin. My dough was a little bit stickier than I anticipated, so I ended up putting a little bit of extra flour just to bring it together a little bit more. But even though it rose and did not get super tall, it did when I ended up baking it. So it could have turned out a little bit better, but I'm not mad at it. It turned out super tasty. It was nice and sour. We had a little bite of the pumpkin, a little taste of the cinnamon. It was super good, nice and fluffy. Inside was a nice crunchy crust. And that is all for today's video. I really hope you enjoyed watching how I'm kind of bringing things together without a lot of stuff on hand. If you did, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe down below. I make new videos every single week on all things sourdough, homemaking, and country living, and I can't wait to see you next week in our farmhouse.